So a little while ago, I began work on a dialogue system for my game. Honestly, it was very long and really difficult, to the point where I didn't really do much else to it after I'd finished it. But last year I went back to it and managed to implement some good changes, I think. So this is kind of the earliest model. So only 2 options to choose from, just to see if it worked. And you'll notice I'm borrowing the BioWare dialogue wheel. So in this scene you're sitting on the edge of a roof, and as you can probably tell it's a cyberpunk setting. So this was just a test that the buttons worked and they did what it had to. In this case, telling the mesh to trigger a certain animation along with the sound, and then returning you back to the wheel. In version 2 I tried to create my own conversation aesthetic. So you can see here there are literal branches. This was a huge hurdle for me. I was actually really pleased with the result. After this I decided to improve the cinematography and the camera work and the lighting. In the next version you can actually go up to the character and initiate the conversation. As you can see here, the lighting is dramatically different. The neon lights are flooding the character's face. As well as that, the character actually has their own voice now and audio, whereas before it was just a placeholder.
From here, yeah. It's a kind of bioluminescent parasite that lives in the atmosphere, native to this side of the city.
It's at this point where you begin to feel kind of naive. So in total there are about 7 or 8 animations, which all corresponded to different responses, and animating these was hard. Actually, animating them wasn't that hard, but getting them to look good, decent, presentable took a fair amount of fine-tuning. There was no mocap here, it was all hand animation, which if you know anything about the human face, it's never going to look perfect, it's always going to look a little bit weird. Then you have to kind of stop and remind yourself, this is a teeny tiny little game that you're making all by yourself, and to expect it to look as good as the very top games is just a recipe for disaster and demotivation. But then you still want it to look impressive, so it ends up being this tug of war, which I haven't really won either way yet, but I am pleased with where I've gotten it to. You may have noticed that during the animations, it simply snaps from one animation to the other. That's because the animations are interrupting each other halfway through. I didn't mind this to start with in the prototyping phase, but I did want to polish it out later on. Then I had to learn about blendspaces, which, as you can imagine, is basically blending between 2 animations. Here you can see the character is talking, and when they finish they go back to idle, and then no matter where they are in the idle animation, it will blend to the next speaking animation whenever the player presses the button. After a while I realised it didn't really make sense for her to be wearing just a vest on the roof, so after some consideration I decided to give her a jacket. And this was yet another thing I needed to learn. Using a program called Marvelous Designer, I gave my character a denim jacket which conformed to their body type. And then using the really impressive cloth sim on this program, I got it to fit perfectly. I imported it into Unreal, and there we have our clothed character. I also made some cosmetic changes to the level. I put in some big cyberpunk billboards, and I put some more buildings down below, just to give you the sense of scale in this map. Admittedly, probably an unrealistic scale, but you know, whatever. I also put in some airships down below, a definite nod to the blimp in Blade Runner. Another thing about this game is it's set in the interior of a sphere, so if you look up we can see all kinds of lights, buildings, and I wanted to put in 2 distinct lanes of traffic, like these 2 crazy sky highways. As you can probably tell, I keep working into this map and just building and building and building, and I don't know if I'll ever even finish it, but at some point after this video is released I will upload a walkthrough of the whole level. No commentary, just so you can see the whole thing. This is just one level of of a much bigger game, and hopefully I'll be posting more about this in the future. So thanks for watching, and I'll hopefully see you soon.